Good deal. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're recording, right? Yeah. Okay, good. So what I'll talk about first is just kind of the purpose of these, and what we hope to do here is have these each month, second Wednesday of each month, and be able to share kind of on have a different faculty member who's going to talk about a specific topic, and then for perhaps 10 minutes or so, and then we'll hit a couple of what we're calling hot topics, which are things that just happen to pop up at the moment that we think folks might need some clarity on, and then open it up for question and answers about the subjects at hand, or other things that you might want to ask about. So as far as asking questions, you can go ahead and send those out as chat messages to Dr. Ford at this point. She's going to serve as kind of the moderator, and then she'll call my attention to particular ones when the Q&A time starts, and we'll go from that. And so what we kind of hope to do with this is to provide, many of you receive the student newsletters, and I know that a lot of people like those a lot, but we thought that perhaps having something like this, where you can see us and ask questions in a live setting, might also be valuable and help people to feel connected to us and to each other and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on our topic, which is secrets of the plan of study. And so I'm going to speak, kind of conceptually about what the different parts of the overall plan of study are intended to achieve, and then transition into kind of the hot topic stuff. So we'll start there. So, many of you may have heard us talk about the term core classes. And so those are the classes that you take essentially in your first year and a half, 801 through 807. And those classes, lead you through the process of first, kind of getting acclimated to what doctoral study is about, and getting into the flow of the workload and kind of the schedule of our classes, which, as you all know, kind of a Sunday to Sunday kind of schedule, with discussion boards due on Thursdays and papers due on Sundays and things like that. And so, and as anybody could tell you, as you get into that, at first it's pretty daunting in the first few classes, and then it just becomes kind of a routine, and folks kind of work through that way. A lot of the stuff that gets introduced in those classes, of course, with classes like ethics and strategic planning and change theory and the financial class and so forth, are kind of skills and information and theoretical approaches and things like that allow you to look at leadership issues from different lenses. And in combination with that, learning how to express those ideas and use those tools in a written product. And those things are important. Also, a key element of the core is getting folks to know each other as far as students, and to get exposure to different viewpoints from the different faculty members that you could have in those classes. And what I mean by that is that when you have sorry. When you've got, I'm just going to tell a story. I remember having a student relatively early on who, two students in the same class who essentially were saying, I'm in the military and this particular military perspective is unique. There's really no other, field like it. Everything is unique to this, and I can't really compare that. You can't really compare it to other types of disciplines. And then I had a teacher in a K through 12 situation who said, this is the thing, is that you can't really take leadership, tools or theoretical perspectives from outside of teaching and try to apply them here, because teaching is entirely unique. It's not like any other profession. They're quite different. And learning how to talk to each other as students and value those perspectives and understand that, oh, hey, I have more in common with the kinds of struggles and leadership issues and challenges that someone else does that's in a completely different field. And that's a good thing to learn. And one thing that we really try to emphasize is that we can all learn from each other. As faculty too, we see that as well. Obviously we all come from different fields, and it's an interdisciplinary program. And so we're constantly in the office as full-time faculty members, talking about how we approach different things from different theoretical perspectives or different resources that we could use. And it's challenging and really fun to do that. And so we're trying to kind of approximate that as well through these core classes. Of course, another element of that is the writing side of things. And so, developing folks' writing skills and the use of APA and scholarly writing style and grammar and these sorts of things are incredibly valuable to learn during the process of those core classes. So that's kind of an overview of what we're talking about when you hear people talk about core classes. Of course, everyone kind of goes through the core more or less, except for those people who might have to step out for whatever reason for a term or something. They pretty much go through those in a lockstep fashion. So after you get done with the core, then we start seeing a little more variability in that, because we start with the 812 research design and professional inquiry class. That's a kind of a primer on social science research methods and designs and how to start thinking about setting up a research project that will ultimately potentially become your dissertation. That's that. For some of you, you might have encountered that kind of material before. Other times, you may not have seen that sort of stuff before, or those approaches. And so, learning how to start really playing with those tools and trying different things out is what's happening there in 812. Of course, after 812, you take an elective, and then you take 890 and 899E, which again, we're kind of starting to move down that path of learning how to use research tools. And in that class, which is 890 is 2 credits, 899E is 1, take them both at the same time. You have to take them both at the same time. In 890, it's learning how to find, read, and use scholarly literature, and ultimately, the goal of that is to create a literature review. And so again, we're kind of working through that process of how do you do that? How do you find things? What's a valuable article look like? How can I find things in a wide-ranging interdisciplinary literature? How do I use those resources like the Reinert Library and so forth to find that sort of stuff? what to look for in articles that might be valuable to me, things like that. 899E touches on some administrative aspects of completing the dissertation. And so you start to learn about where the templates are and things like that, but you also complete city training and set up an IRBNet account, which will be important later, and a subject that I'll get back to in the hot topics. Then after that 890, 899E course, then you would take another elective, then you take 813, and so forth and so on. 813 essentially kind of breaks out quantitative and qualitative methods in 4-week blocks, and you work through some different approaches and tests and things and learn how to do some of those, use some of those tools in that way. After 813, you are, this is a bit of a misnomer, and so I wanted to call everyone's attention to it, is that you take, in your plans of study, you'll see methods elective. That doesn't mean that it's elective. So you have to take one of the two of them. You have to take 850 or 851. And so by the time you've done 813, you should have a pretty good sense of whether you're going to go in a quantitative direction with your research or a qualitative direction. And those classes provide you with a more in-depth view of those two methodologies so that you can hone your skills in each of those, depending on which one that you want to go with. So keep in mind, you know, when it comes time to take one of those, you have to take one or the other of them, and you have to take them after you take 813. And then you would take 814, which is the proposal construction class. Most folks, virtually all folks, should have an elective or two left after that, but you'll be taking electives, kind of working on your dissertation with your chair and your committee, and then you're taking 899 hours, which are the basically placeholders for your work on your dissertation. During that time, probably within a couple, 3 months of completing the 814 class, you would defend your proposal before your committee members, and then you're taking your 899 hours and working through the process of gathering data, first submitting for IRB, getting that approved, then collecting your data, doing your analysis in whichever methodological form that you choose, and then finally, once your chair and second committee person believes you're ready, defending your final dissertation here on campus. So those are kind of the major parts of the plan of study. You got core classes, you've got a set of research classes, and then you're in the dissertation phase. And so, you know, some things that come up periodically, you know, as far as that goes, if you have to step out, if you have to take a term off, that's completely fine. It happens. Speak to your faculty advisor about it. That's another term that gets bantied about a little bit and may be a little bit confusing. But so your faculty advisor is a full-time faculty member in the program. So Dr. Moss-Breen, Dr. Georges, myself, Dr. Williams, Dr. Bloomquist, and Dr. Ford are your full-time faculty members who also serve as faculty advisors. So if you're thinking about taking a term off for whatever reason, you know, send us an email and set up a time to talk, and we'll help walk you through how that goes. So if you need to take a class off at some point or another, we can accommodate that, and then we can work that into your own, you know, unique plan of study to make sure that we get you caught up at some point. So I think that's something to consider. So I think what I'll do now is switch over into the discussions of hot topics. So And again, if you have questions about anything that I just talked about, feel free to use the chat to send a message to Dr. Ford, and she'll let me know. As far as IRB goes, so this is something that when you take your city training, again, that's when you take the 890 and 899E class, you'll take city training and you'll set up an IRB net account. You won't use it yet, but it'll be ready for you to use. What city training does is talk to you and inform you about ethical research. That's the, sometimes you'll see people talk about submitting for IRB as if it's kind of like a checkoff thing, or that it's a primary, it helps you to refine the logic of your research design so that you avoid bias or things like that. And those are nice things, but the primary aspect that, the primary point of IRB is to ensure that your research is being conducted in an ethical manner, and that participants are being protected to the greatest degree possible, minimizing any potential harm that they might experience by participating in your study. It's a critical part of doing research, and it's something that has to be done no matter what. And so after your proposal defense, but before you start collecting and analyzing data, you have to submit your research design and plans for how you're going to conduct the research in an ethical manner and protect your participants through Creighton's IRB. And I wanted to show you really quickly, for those of you who are a long way from that or who are getting close to that kind of phase, where you can find that. And so, let's see. Of course, I've left open a million folders. Okay, so if you go to the EDD Student Resource Center, there's a ton of stuff in here. And just on the other hand, this is a really, if you haven't seen this before, every student is added to the EDD Student Resource Center. It's kind of a permanent class on Blue Line, but you have access to it for the whole time you're in the program. And so there's a lot of great stuff in here you can poke around and find. But for the specific purposes of our conversation today, it's down here. Let's see, here we go. City and IRB certification. And so there's links, there's a video, there's a manual, there's a lot of things in here that basically give you the whole picture about what you need to do. The IRB people here are efficient and do a good job. I won't lie, it's a little bit tedious to submit, but it's something that is a little bit less, it's more tedious than complicated, let's put it that way. And so this is something you have to do. And also, when the time comes and you've submitted, your chair has to log in and sign off on this, that they've seen it and they're aware of your work, to get that approval squared away. So I wanted to make y'all aware of that. And then the next hot topic that we have is, and Elizabeth, I did see your question, I'll get to that at the end, is the 814 matching process. So now, Dr. Ford, I believe that we've got an 814 opportunity coming up, right?
Yes, for summer.
So summer 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. So relatively soon, for those of you who are eligible to do 814, so again, you have to have finished 813 for sure and be in that methods elective or having had taken it. You've got to have candidacy done. And for those folks who are kind of in that spot, what happens is Dr. Ford will send you an email and say, hey, 814 matching process is coming up. Keep your eyes on your email, which if anybody knows me, I'm always talking about that at orientation, at least 3 to 5 times of checking your Creighton email is really important. So this is one of those instances. So Dr. Ford's going to send you an email, and you'll get an email saying, hey, 814 matching process is coming up. Be sure to keep an eye on that. Then you'll get an email, perhaps a week later or so, that gives you the opportunity to log into a Qualtrics survey that has all of the available chairs, their CVs and teaching statements available for you to review. And it also allows you to express your ranked preferences over those chairs. So which one would you think would be the best one to help you with your dissertation? Then that survey is open for about a week or so. And then when it closes out, we review those matches with the actual chairs that are available. And then folks get matched up, you get in touch with your chair, we notify you of all these things. And then in summer 1, in this instance, you'll take the class with your chair as the instructor, along with the other students that also were matched to that chair. So during the class itself, you work to develop a fairly well-honed draft of your proposal. You're not expected to propose during the class, and no one has to this point. You're just working out the first 3 chapters of your dissertation in more or less finished form. And then at the end of it, you're creating a kind of a presentation version of your proposal defense presentation. And so then after 814, of course, you're continuing to work with your chair and your second committee member at that point to further develop the rest of your dissertation. That raises another issue I wanted to talk about really quickly, was the process of obtaining a second committee member. So 814 matching process, that's how you get your chair. Your second committee person is something that you should discuss with your chair, and there's actually a forum for that in the 814 class itself. But also you need to know that your faculty advisor, again, Dr. Moss-Breen, Dr. Georges, myself, Dr. Williams, Dr. Bloomquist, Dr. Ford, respectively, your specific faculty advisor needs to be consulted about your choice of second committee person and needs to sign off on that. And so you need to have a conversation with them about, with one of us, respectively, about your choice of second committee member. And we can often help if you don't know who to get. We might be able to provide some guidance on that, thoughts about what sort of person to ask and how to ask them and so forth. So that's kind of everything I had for those 2 topics. And so at this point, I'll open it up for questions. The first one's from Elizabeth that says, on average, how long does the IRB process take from submission to approval? Thanks. So generally, I think it takes students about maybe about a week or so to get everything together. And again, it's you have to write some little short pieces of parts and complete some forms and do some things like that. So that maybe take you a week to get all that lined up, not working 24/7, but just, hitting it on a casual basis to get everything submitted. And then generally speaking, depending on what they have going on and the type of study that you're submitting for, it's usually about 2 weeks. So sometimes a little bit longer, but that's a general good rule of thumb. more questions? We're here for you. One thing to think about too, while I'm waiting for some more questions to come in, is that if you are approaching if you're in the research classes phase, we're going to have a writing workshop coming up, and I believe that's like in early June. And so there'll be some emails about registering for that coming out relatively soon. If you're in that phase of your work and can take the time to come to campus for those writing workshops, they're really valuable. Everybody who comes just raves about them. They're a good opportunity to reconnect with your classmates, and also to visit with us as full-time faculty members about dissertation ideas, methods, things that you have going on, you know, get a fresh perspective on things, you know, hang out in the library and just write for 2 or 3 days. You know, Omaha in June is not too shabby at all. It's vastly superior to Omaha in February and March, I can tell you that. We've had a pretty miserable winter, not nearly as miserable as those in the Northeast, but pretty rough. So we're all looking forward to spring. But yeah, so if you can, you know, those writing workshops are really a valuable thing to participate in. We have 2 of them per year, and so the next one coming up is going to be in June, and then I think we'll have another one in October. Okay, so here's a question regarding the summer writing class. How essential is it that we've completed 30 credits before attending? I think that it's not particularly valuable to folks that are in the core, you know, because you're still kind of learning about, you know, you're not really in a place where you have to select a dissertation topic yet, nor the kinds of refining processes and things that you learn about in 812 and 813 and 890 are kind of useful to being able to come to the writing class and kind of hit the ground running, so to speak. So I suppose sometime around there, you know, it's a good time to come to the writing class is after you've completed the core. So wherever you sit with that. Okay. Any other questions that you might have?
If you are comfortable using your microphone, you can go ahead and ask. We're going to use the chat box if we had a tremendous number of students. And we have a very good turnout, which I'm very happy to see all of you. But if you would like to just talk with your microphone instead of chat box, that's okay too.
Yep, that'd be great. Would the writing seminar be helpful at all to brand new students? I would suggest not. I would wait because again, the writing, the on-campus writing workshop is more for folks that are starting the process of refining a dissertation idea, or some folks even use it to write their candidacy essays. So I'd wait about a year. So Dr. Ford or Dr. Bloomquist or anything, does anybody have any, did I make any major flubs that you'd like to correct or expand upon?
No, but Dr. Bloomquist has a question for you in the chat box.
Oh, okay. Dr. Bloomquist asks, what if I don't know what my plan of study is and where do I find it? So again, the EDD Student Resource Center is a great place to go check. We got an echo from somebody. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Oh, there we go. Okay. So the EDD Student Resource Center, again, it's a great resource for finding all kinds of things, including the plans of study, which are oriented towards when you started. So if you started in January or August of a particular year, you've got those things laying there. If that's at all unclear as to what you're looking at, you can always visit again with us as your faculty advisors. You can visit with us, and we'll help you orient to that. So I've got another question. Dr. Martin, I know much depends on the type of research one does to help guide for chair selection, but there are any other tips you can to help us as we think about making the best possible match? So, the answer to that is that it depends. I think that some chairs are kind of higher order. Let's get the trains running on time. They're looking at the concepts and helping you to work through the process of how do I design a logical, coherent study. And they're very, very good at that. Some chairs, on the other hand, may have very specific contextual knowledge that will help you engage with the literature and the ideas and theories that are useful to you in thinking through the dynamics that are going on in your topic. Other chairs may have really solid methods experience in a particular method or subtype of method that you might want to use. And other chairs may be, an expert in the particular field or topic that you're going for. I would say that latter chance is probably a little bit less, given that we are an interdisciplinary program. So, I think finding a chair that has of those that you are able to pick from, that seems to have experience in doing research, and perhaps you may have noticed that you have one or two of these folks in class as an instructor at some point. And I think those kinds of considerations it's all part of the picture. So I can say that the vast majority of people that have participated in the 814 matching process have been very happy with their selection of chair. Let's see. Here's another question. Can you say more about the second member of the committee? How are the roles between the chair and the second different? So in that case, so let's say that you obtained the kind of big picture, logical flow, construct kind of chair. Then you probably want to find a second committee person that did have that high level contextual knowledge of the topic that you're engaged with, or is an expert in the methods that you intend to use. So it would be, if you, like, for instance, let's say you wanted to do a quantitative dissertation and both your chair and your second committee person were qualitative experts, that probably wouldn't be the best fit. And so that's, again, with the second committee person, that's where we as faculty advisors can help you to think through those kinds of questions. So I would say the role of in that sense, what to look for is somebody who's either got a great deal of knowledge about the literature of the topic that you're engaged with, and hopefully is skilled in the method that you intend to use to investigate your research problem. Generally speaking, we encourage chairs and our seconds to communicate quite a bit. The second is not going to provide you as much feedback as the chair, and oftentimes, but not always, the second committee person kind of defers to the chair's guidance on what they suggest to you. There's points at which a second may be, may kind of, I'm searching for a phrase that makes sense, you know, draw a line in the sand about something, and really want you to go a certain way when the chair may be a little bit ambivalent on it. And that's okay, that's part of the process. Someone's asking, can it be someone local that we can access in person? I have someone in mind who works for my diocese. So second committee members must have a terminal degree, so an EDD, a PhD, a JD, MD, so forth. And again, you know, if they have a CV, curriculum vitae, then when it comes time for you to select that second person, you can send that to your faculty advisor and have that conversation about whether that person would be a really good fit or not. Generally speaking, we discourage folks from getting second committee persons whom they work for or that work for them, or folks that are close friends, just because those kinds of relationships tend to cloud folks' guidance in some cases. But that doesn't mean that someone you know is necessarily not going to be accepted. But it's a conversation to have with your faculty advisor. Okay, we had a flurry of questions. Looks like we may have run the course. Any other final questions or thoughts? So yeah, here we go. Here's our slide. So I'm really glad that everyone joined tonight, and be sure to tell your buddies in your cohorts about this, because we're going to continue to have these. And of course, Dr. Ford has recorded this, so she's going to send it out to everybody. But the next webinar that we'll have will be on Wednesday, April 14th at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. And at that point, your presenters will be Dr. Bloomquist and Dr. Moss Green. And so thank you all, and have a great rest of your week, and thanks for participating.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate the help.